Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Join the conversation on our social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it simple.
Welcome to another edition of the ODPH podcast, or better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. I am your host, Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, it's Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
And also your coach, my coach, the coach, Coach Duffy.
Ken, I just want to say thank you. I wasn't going to return back to the show without my original headset, and you went out and you got it for me, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
It was a tough ordeal, but we did it because we wanted to avoid any arbitration here on the ODPH.
I didn't want to have to go there, and thank God we didn't, because I could return to the show with my original headset.
Folks, we have a lot to discuss in the land of sports talk, so definitely hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. Join in the conversation on social media. You can find out all our links are on OchoDuroParlayHour.com, so definitely join in on that. But before we get into the sports talk, we definitely got to give a shout-out to One Movie Punch, your daily movie review podcast for everything that's currently playing, newly streaming, classic and cult movies.
Now, how often are they putting out episodes?
One movie per day, every day.
That is a lot of movies.
Absolutely. They do an awesome job. I listen every day. We are actually featured on episode 561, where they're covering the movie The Kitchen.
Okay, I think that's a new one.
Yes, it is. Just came out, so definitely check them out. You can find them at onemoviepunch.com, facebook.com/onemoviepunch, twitter.com/onemoviepunch, and instagram.com/onemoviepunch. And you can also check their show out on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google, and Iheartradio. But enough from me. You can hear from them yourselves.
Hello there. Do you like movies but feel overwhelmed by the avalanche of titles available every week in the theaters and on streaming services? Do you struggle with justifying the increasing cost of movies at the theater or whether to pick up another streaming service? Well, I have a resource for you, One Movie Punch. Your movie review podcast for currently playing, newly streaming classic and cult movies, one movie per day, every day. We track the theaters, streaming services, and the occasional physical release to find the best movies currently available. We watch every film, then distill it into a short 3 to 5 minute review and publish a daily podcast. And now with year 2, we've gone spoiler-free for all movies within the last 3 years and bringing on a team of reviewers with brand new perspectives and selections. Want more information? Head over to www.onemoviepunch.com to subscribe to the daily podcast. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at OneMoviePunch and Facebook at www.facebook.com/OneMoviePunch. We'll see you there.
Thanks again to One Movie Punch for playing our promo on their show, episode 561, and we are more than happy to return the favor to you here on the ODPH. For more information on them, check out onemoviepunch.com. But let's jump right into that sports talk.
I mean, we got a few things to talk about.
We have a few things to talk about. You heard at the beginning of the show, and we'll just remind you again, use that hashtag ODPH. Join in that conversation on social media. And the first big story of the NFL preseason has to be...
Oh, let me guess. Daniel Jones going 5 for 5, going right into the Hall of Fame after his first preseason game?
Nah, it can't be that. It's got to be Tom Brady's new average annual salary being like $28.3 million. 28-3.
But he was 5 for 5 against the second-team defense.
Hall of Famer.
Oh, I mean, he's my number one pick in fantasy football.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. That's a steal.
I know. In fact, in all my leagues, I'm trying to trade up to get him, so it's a little spoiler for everybody. No, the biggest story of this offseason thus far, preseason, however you want to define this time period in the NFL, Antonio Brown, what the heck is going on there?
I mean, one could say this isn't the hottest story in the preseason.
Hey,
That's the
hey.
Heyo.
Pat, break it down for us.
So, story comes out last week and it was posted to Antonio Brown's Instagram story, which you won't be able to view anymore, but you can find the image online. If you haven't seen the image yet, if you're of weak constitution, I would kind of recommend against seeing it, but if you're one of those that you like seeing gnarly photos and crazy stuff, go for it. The photo got posted to Antonio Brown's Instagram story, like I said, and it was of his feet. And they were the weirdest looking, burnt looking, skin missing feet I've ever seen. And everyone's kind of going, wait, what in the world happened to his feet? That doesn't look like any normal human's feet should look like. Come to find out, Antonio Brown went to France into a cryotherapy clinic to do some cryotherapy. A lot of sports athletes use it. LeBron James, Steph Curry, JaVale McGee, among many others, like to use the thing. But the key thing with this is you are exposing yourself to temperatures near minus 400 degrees Fahrenheit, which if anyone remembers your high school science at all, that's near absolute zero, where molecules stop moving. Like, they just don't move anymore. And obviously, when you're at temperatures that cold, you need to wear protective clothing. And story is that Antonio Brown did not wear protective clothing, so you've already got that going on.
Yeah, this is how this is starting the preseason off for the Raiders, that he is going to get the treatment and cryogenic therapy like that. When you see these players get into these chambers and it's supposed to heal their muscles quicker, you can think that this is like an ice bath times 1,000
Right,
or
but-
a million, however you want to define it.
Right, but the thing to remember is, the FDA does not recommend this. Like, they're kind of like not sold on it. They're not really certain on it. And then the American Dermatology Association also does not recommend it.
Coach, would you let a player do cryogenic therapy?
I mean, I've seen a lot of athletes do it, so I would. Why not? I mean, it's good for their, from all intents and purposes, it's supposed to be good for them. I would just hope that they wouldn't be stupid enough not to wear the proper attire. I mean, this is why they say when you have to sign the waiver, like, this is why you sign that, because they want you to be protected. Like, so it just, to me, it was a nonsensical move. It was just a lapse of judgment, I would say. But, Antonio Brown, like, it's the same thing as the athletes with the steroids. Oh, I didn't know it was there.
Right.
It is your responsibility to take care of yourself. Literally, athletes are the antithesis of your body is your temple speech. Like, so if you don't know what you're doing to your body, do not do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where he needs to jump in. I mean, obviously, it's a little different than steroids because this is a legal process.
Right, absolutely. I'm just saying.
Just to clarify.
Yeah, I'm just saying, though, like, for all intents and purposes, you literally need to know before you do something what you're getting into. And you need to make sure that you're properly protecting yourself from X, Y, and Z result.
Because especially with the drama of him leaving Pittsburgh, that he wanted desperately out. He did not want to play with Ben Roethlisberger anymore.
Although his kids wanted him to. If you saw the first episode of Hard Knocks.
Oh, my God. Awkward.
Yes. That, to see HBO's Hard Knocks, is you need to watch it to get the full gist of what we're talking about.
I mean, there's no way to, they were just, oh, where's Ben? Where's Ben? He's like, he's in Pittsburgh, buddy. Like,
yeah. So for him to leave, and he wound up in Oakland, he did not wind up in Buffalo, and I'm very thankful for that as a Bills fan.
Right now you are, yeah.
Oh, I still am. I
texted you, the Bills are the smartest team. The Bills and the Steelers are the two smartest teams in the room right now.
Yeah, they're winning because, I mean, obviously this is just the tip of the iceberg, pun intended, with Antonio Brown, because now he's out in Oakland, and you can kind of see everything was in the honeymoon phase, him meeting up with Derek Carr, and he obviously seemed excited to be there, and then we have this incident to kick off preseason, and then after this happens, there is just a miscommunication, no communication, however you want to define it. There is a gap of time where Antonio Brown and his representatives are not talking with the Raiders, who are trying to investigate what's going on with their star franchise wide receiver.
Well, it's not even this. They're trying to investigate what's going on. They just want to know how his feet are, because they've got a lot of money invested in this guy. He's going to be their star wide receiver. The guy that if they put a banner outside the stadium, like advertising come to Raiders games, or a billboard in Oakland, he's going to be on that billboard. They just want to say, hey, how's things going? How are the feet going? But like, he's not answering calls. They can't get a hold of him. They don't even know where he is.
Yeah.
They just want to talk to him.
Yeah.
Well, because in this situation, it's almost one of those contract clauses that I think everybody's trying to sort through, because there are certain players throughout the history of sports that has clauses in their contracts about not doing certain activities that are not pertaining to the field. I mean, Aaron Boone, when he played for the New York Yankees, was told in his contract, you cannot play basketball.
Yep.
And then what happened? He tore his knee out playing basketball.
Blew his knee out in the offseason.
So teams are getting a little wiser about what activities they're allowing their players to do on the offseason. And at this stage, too, with Antonio Brown, the Raiders are investigating, the NFL is kind of investigating, just to find out what happened. It wasn't a disciplinary thing. They're just finding out what happened. So then we go into this period where nobody is talking to each other, and then it emerges about an issue concerning his helmet.
Right, because then it comes out, so everyone thinking, oh, he's not talking to the Raiders because of his feet. No, it comes out he's not talking to the Raiders because it's of his helmet. Now, they're a little behind inside football, if you will. The NFL has a policy of not allowing players to wear helmets that are not certified by the National Operating Committee for Standards in Athletic Equipment. Now, the helmet Brown was believed to have been wearing since the first year of his NFL career was the Shut Air Advantage helmet, which has been discontinued in making. So, I presume that he didn't wear the same helmet from his first year to his current year. He probably got a new one every year or so. But be that as it may, he cannot get a hold of that helmet anymore, because it's like if you go to a department store and your favorite pair of Levi's aren't there anymore because, Levi's should stop making them. So you've got that going on, and then it's no longer certified by this committee. And the NFL has, like I said, has a policy of not allowing players to wear that helmet. And Antonio's big beef, and other players have voiced this same beef, is they don't really like the helmet. And Antonio's argument with it was his vision wasn't as good, and it made it a little more difficult to catch passes.
Coach, you have some thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the equipment aspect of it, because when you get settled into something and you have, that familiarity and comfortability with, an equipment piece, you want to have it, coming from the fact, that I played lacrosse my entire life, you get used to a certain stick, and then all of a sudden a stick change rule comes in, and then you got to change everything that you knew about the game because that piece of equipment you're so used to. Now, I mean, obviously, I think the helmets that they have made today are perfectly fine. I mean, I haven't worn a football helmet since high school.
Sure.
So, I mean, we wore the old school Riddles, and didn't have the revolutionary ones that came out, the Style 2 or whatever they're pretty sure they were called the revolutionary ones. So, I mean, all I knew was the Riddle helmets, which I always thought were perfectly fine. But, with all the things that they've done as far as player safety and, the studies and everything, obviously these helmets need to get fine-tuned, and when they find out new things, it's like, you got to evolve with the times, and you got to understand that your safety is what they're trying to take into effect, even with what the players would probably say back that, our safety is really a concern to the, the NFL, but ultimately it is, it is on them to make sure that you are at least somewhat protected, and that's why they make these helmet rules. And I understand Antonio's feeling for wanting to be, grandfathered in, but at the end of the day, you got to abide by the rules. You're not going to get away with it. If Tom Brady doesn't get away with it, you ain't getting away with it.
Yeah,
exactly. And at this stage, too, have you ever, when you got your stick, upgraded and such, have you ever threatened to retire?
I mean, no. I just buy a new stick. But, I listen, the whole retirement thing, I think that's more so just a threat at the Raiders, with the whole, contract. Because, again, with the foot injury, now, because then here we go, we're circling back now, because the foot injury was done off-site from what the Raiders have for their rehab and that type of thing. So, again, verbiage in the contract now, they could void his contract and not have to pay him at all. So I think that tie of the I'll retire if I don't get my helmet wasn't so much an NFL dig as it was the Raiders, sending a shot across their bow,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, could be. I mean, I'm with Duffy. I understand the helmet or the equipment aspect of it, because you see this in baseball sometimes where you'll have a player who's maybe hitting okay or not so great, and then they break their bat. And instead of getting another one of their bats because they may not have another one of their bats, they borrow a bat of a teammate's, and then they go and hit a home run. Well, for the next however many at-bats until that bat breaks or they don't do well, they're borrowing their teammate's bat. You see this all the time. But at the same token, it's like Coach said, they've made a lot of progress over the years in regards to player safety and the equipment they're wearing. The helmets are a lot better, especially the newer ones are a lot better at detecting when they had a concussion and protecting against concussions. And that is the NFL's far and away biggest concern when it comes to player safety is, okay, yeah, we want to prevent injuries and we want to prevent this, that, and the other, but we want to stop concussions. Like, you may not stop all concussions, but we want to get to a point where we're preventing more than we're letting happen. And the technology that they had for helmets, 10 plus years ago is nowhere near what it is now.
Right. It's just an evolution of time. It's not to punish any player. It's to make the game safer, because let's face it, American football is one of the most violent sports on the planet. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to rank it up there with boxing and mixed martial arts to a degree. It's a different style, but it's still one of the most physical things you'll ever do. There's
a great video on YouTube where you can go out and find, I don't know the gentleman's name, but there's a video of a rugby player watching some of the most violent hits in NFL history. And there's more than one occasion where rugby, it's supposed to be tougher and harder hitting than the NFL. There's more than one instance where he sees a hit on an NFL field and he goes, "Oh my God, is that legal?"
Yeah, it's just one of those situations you're in.
No, I mean, literally, a perfect example is that's why the kickoff rule has changed. Yeah. Because you have players flying down the field at 15 to 20 miles per hour, unblocked, running into a guy who is either, running at a 5 to 10 miles per hour because he's got to catch the ball and then, set up to run. I mean, that's why these rules have changed. So, and punt returners, that's why they have the fair catch rule where you're not allowed to touch them because, I mean, these people could literally be decapitated on some of these hits.
Right. So, I mean, you move on. You got the helmet issue going on, and he wants to wear his old helmet. He doesn't want to wear the new helmet. And on Friday, he had a 2-hour conference call with an independent arbitrator, according to ESPN, basically to argue why he should be allowed to wear his 10-year-old helmet. And I like what Coach said. If Brady ain't getting away with this, you ain't getting away with this. The arbitrator for the grievance was joined by league officials, player representatives, and representatives from the NFL Players Association in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And now here we go to, as we record on Monday, the arbitrator has come out and Antonio Brown has lost his arbitration hearing, so he will be forced to wear the new helmet, and went to Instagram to make a post saying, quote, "While I disagree with the arbitrator's decision, I'm working on getting back to full health and looking forward to rejoining my teammates on the field. I'm excited about this season, appreciate all the concerns about my feet," close quote.
So, with all this being said, what now do you think lies ahead for AB and the Raiders? Do you think the drama is over, or are we just getting started?
I think what needs to happen is because without having seen Hard Knocks or where they're at, and sources and the Schefters of the world and the Rappaports of the world are fine. This is not a dig at them, but I think the Raiders and Antonio Brown, not with his agent. Don't bring in his whole camp, just him and his agent with front office. They need to just sit down and have a conversation. Not dig at anybody, not to rip anybody out. Just listen. We just need to hash this out. We need to smooth this out because this is not the way you want to start off your first year with a new team.
I mean, obviously, from the look of things of episode 1 of Hard Knocks, it seems like they're okay as of right now. The show obviously aired at training camp, or filmed at training camp, and now we're viewing it at week 1 of preseason. So 3 weeks ago versus today. I mean, I think that they invested in Antonio Brown. They had big plans for him being in their future. I mean, he's only a 30-ish year old wide receiver. So I mean, or in low 30s. So I mean, it's silly to think that they're not going to try and work this out. I mean, I don't know what paranoia crept in his head that he felt like they were going to void his contract. You don't trade for a receiver of his caliber and then ultimately say, oh, because of your, silly, move, we're going to void your contract. I mean, they're not going to do that. So ultimately, I think that both parties need to sit down, Mayock and Gruden and AB and his agent. They all need to sit in a room and figure out where they're going to go from here, because ultimately, at the end of the day, when you trade draft picks to get a guy, you want to have him.
Yeah.
And, I mean, losing him would be a huge blow to the Raiders moving forward.
And I think a conversation with Derek Carr would help. I mean, you saw the video when he got traded to Oakland and the two of them met up, and just how happy they were and how excited they were.
Yeah, both have flown. They talked about it in the episode.
Yeah.
Both have flown to each other's houses to run routes together. And I mean, that's the thing that really is what's so crazy is from that episode alone. When you watch it, AB is running routes like he's practicing. Yeah, he's got a little blemish, a little hiccup in his step there when he's running. But he's still explosive and he still looks good.
Yeah.
He could still do probably 7-on-7 drills and ghost, offensive drills. I wouldn't run him on full team hitting drills, but at least getting him out there for timing for Derek Carr's sake. So it's really crazy to see that ultimately now it's gotten to this point. It's just one escalation, but that's again why I think why Hard Knocks is so amazing, because we're gonna watch this unfold for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
This is going to become one of those instances that teams are going to be using for examples down the road, I think. Because for Oakland to make the move to get Pittsburgh, and it was well documented about the drama that was involving him on his last years with the Steelers.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So for Oakland to make the move, I know it was a splashy move. They wanted to do something for their fan base after trading Amari Cooper away.
Right.
They needed to bring in somebody that was going to really reignite that offense.
Well, especially after trading Amari Cooper and Khalil Mack and watching them explode.
I mean, just the disintegration of what they had built in Oakland last season, and now it's officially Gruden's ship, and he's writing it, and they went out and they purposely got AB. Drama involved. We've now had 2 instances that this is either going to look like it's going to be a complete disaster out in Oakland, that if he's going and he's obviously got a foot injury with a frostbite, we don't know the full extent, and then if he's threatening to retire about his helmet, and if you're calling the NFL's bluff, they will sit there every time and say, we're not blinking. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to win against them, period.
You're never going to. So what they need to do is get everybody in a room and hash it out and say, no more of this nonsense, or we going to be able to work together. Because if this continues at this rate, and we've already had, 3 instances if you count the no communication in a week?
I mean,
10 days?
I think the biggest thing is not the feet, not the helmet. It's the fact that, the reports were that he went AWOL.
Yeah.
That they couldn't get in contact with him because, as we've seen from the show, I mean, Oakland hosts their preseason, their first, I think, 2 weeks of training camp plus the first 2 preseason games at Napa.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're up in a hotel, and not necessarily isolated, but you're not in your, you're not in your home, you're in a hotel and everything. So it's like they obviously know your whereabouts. I mean, Gruden himself does, or somebody's doing bed checks. So it's like they've got, their fingers on you basically. And for him to be able to go and disappear is crazy.
It absolutely is mind-blowing because your star player, and let's face it, he probably is the face of the Raiders right now. It disappears and nobody can find him.
Right.
And obviously, whatever is entailing with that, as an organization, if the Raiders are going to have any kind of success this year, they need AB there, and they need him to be a team guy. It can't be about me. Because there's 2 teams right now that are sitting back and laughing and just eating their popcorn watching Hard Knocks right now. The Bills, because they didn't make the deal, and the Steelers, who are obviously right now looking to be in a renaissance with Juju Schuster-Smith in whatever they're going to pull off this season with Ben. The distractions are all gone for Pittsburgh.
I'd also argue any other team, we don't know the full list. I'd also argue any other teams that considered trading for Antonio Brown and either went a little high for our ass, a little high for our tastes, or just decided against it.
Right. The only one we know about is Buffalo because it was made public, and AB was very vocal. He didn't want to go there, which I think was very beneficial for the Bills because you want people that want to be in your city and with your team. And for AB to say, no, I don't want to be there. I'm going to Oakland and embrace Raider Nation. Great. But if this is your first impression out the gate, this is not a good look by any stretch of the imagination. But definitely hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What is your thoughts on the Antonio Brown situation? Do you think the drama stops now, or are we just getting started? Hit us up. Let us know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince the Common Man Ciatoy, local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
We knew right where we'd be, floating on the airwaves, you see. It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward and no steps back. We knew right where we'd be.
Coming back for segment number 2 on this edition of the ODPH, and we got to talk some more football. The drama is not just staying in Oakland with the Raiders and AB.
No.
No, we got to talk a little money drama.
Yeah, a little bit.
And there's a couple players around the league that are now having contract issues out of the blue. So, Pat, do you want to start us off?
Well, so probably the biggest one and probably the most jaw-dropping one has got to be one of the 2 out of Dallas and the Cowboys, where Dak Prescott is looking to get a contract extension off of his rookie contract and was reportedly offered a deal in the neighborhood of $30 million per year.
Per year.
Making him one of the top 5 highest paid quarterbacks.
Yeah, and he turned it down. He reportedly wants $40 million annually.
I'm going to defer this to the Giants fan in the room, and I want his opinion on this. You see Dak more than anybody here.
So let's say, hold on, let me get my popcorn.
Yep.
Well, I'm simply just going to say this. What have you done?
Uh-huh.
What have you done? I think the Cowboys have won 1 division title with you as the starting quarterback, if that. And if not, then you've only made the wild card once. You've only been to the playoffs once. You haven't won a playoff game. And now you're sitting here trying to say that you want to be one of the 5th highest paid quarterbacks or one of the top 5 highest paid quarterbacks in all of the NFL? That's crazy.
I'll say, so I've got his stats here for those who are just curious and might not be Cowboys fans and have that off the top of their head. He is, of course, a 2-time Pro Bowler and the 2016 AP Offensive Rookie of the Year. In 2018, he went 10-6 with a completion percentage of 67.7%, threw for 3,885 yards with 22 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. For a career, he has played 48 games, has a record of 32-16, a completion percentage of 66.1%, 10,876 yards, and then 67 touchdowns to 25 interceptions.
Okay, this does not scream $40 million a year
No,
to
I
me.
mean, this is the thing that's killing me with this is I'm all for players getting paid, but you have to have, like, if you're going to get paid by a team, there has to be some sort of, like, fair agreement on what you think that you deserve versus what you get. You know, like, I mean, that's economics, you know, like, you only have so much value, and you need to realize that and self-value and understand what you're worth. Le'Veon Bell is a perennial game-changing running back who has led the Steelers and the NFL both in rushing and touchdowns and deserved that payment. You know, like, he deserved to get paid. Obviously, the running back position now is at a place where, you know, running back by committee, and Pittsburgh, you know, didn't agree with what he was valued at. So you leave. Dak Prescott is vastly overvaluing himself for what he's done as far as a performance. That's why the NFL went in and changed these contracts with rookies. Right. Remember, I mean,
Sam Bradford.
10 years ago, number 1 picks were getting paid more than what Tom Brady would have been making this year.
Yeah, Sam Bradford is the one I can remember most clearly. You know, it was however many years, but it was like a signing bonus of like $50 million.
And it was a huge holdout. It was a rookie deal, and that's why they came
without
in
having played a game.
And they had to change it because what did Sam Bradford do to deserve that? Nothing.
Yeah.
So I understand that the rookie contracts are changed, and you know Dak wants to make his money, and again, I'm all for it, but you have to understand what you are worth. And $40 million is not that, sir.
I'll say, just for comparison's sake, Aaron Rodgers recently, within the last year or so, signed a 4-year, $134 million contract. That is an average salary of $33.5 million a year.
See, this is what I don't get. And, Pat, this is where I'm going to show respect to Tom Brady here. He understands the fact that there is a salary cap in the NFL. And I understand that he is married to a very beautiful, very successful model who probably brings in oogle amounts of money that he doesn't need to necessarily worry about his contracts.
Yeah.
But let's be real here, okay? He doesn't get paid at the level for which he should.
And the wild thing is that recent contract extension, if I read it right, it was an extension. He's going to get his money. But if I read right, it voids after the year. So he's still going to be a free agent.
And let's realize and understand why he does that. Because he knows that if he gets paid to the level that he should probably get paid, then New England wouldn't have anybody else.
No.
So they wouldn't be as successful. And this is the thing that I don't understand. When you are up against it in team and sports that have salary caps and hard caps and luxury taxes and all those things, at the end of the day, if you want to be a successful and talented and winner, you need to sacrifice in some avenue, and your income is it.
And especially when you play for a team like the Dallas Cowboys, who, say what you will about the other teams in the division, there you have their ups, they have their downs. Consistently, year in and year out, it is one of the toughest divisions in the National Football League, where you need your players on offense and defense that can help make plays. Dak Prescott, while he is a very serviceable quarterback, he has yet for me to prove he is worthy of $40 million a year, cannot do it all. And if you're taking up a chunk of the salary cap just because you feel you deserve that money, you need that Brinks truck to back up. You know, how can you help your team win if you're taking up whatever percentage of the salary cap?
I mean, Peyton realized that in his later years in Indiana or Indianapolis. He realized that. He was one of the highest paid for years.
Yeah.
And then, you know, what did they every year? First round, AFC Championship game, out by New England, out by New England, every year. And then finally he realized that. he takes a reduction in salary. They go out and get the defensive players that they never had.
Yeah.
When they were at their peak with Tony Dungy, and what do?
Yeah.
The next year, go and win the Super Bowl.
You had to bring that up.
I understand wanting to get paid. I just don't understand when you want to get paid, you have to sacrifice in another end. So what are you mostly looking to do?
I mean, you look at it from this aspect too. You have the Carmelo Anthony interview he had a couple weeks ago on First Take, where Stephen A. Smith brought up the prospect of he could have played with LeBron James and Dwayne Wade down in Miami, but he took the money.
Right.
And where's he sitting now? On the outside looking in of the NBA, now I realize this might be apples to oranges, but there's a situation where you could have helped yourself and gotten some teammates and played in a good system and won, but you took the money.
Well, this is where the NFL, I think, runs their business right to a degree because they have the hardest salary cap that creates parity throughout the league. And I think the smarter teams like the Patriots, I hate saying this as a Bills fan, but I'll give the Devils their due.
It's the truth.
It's the truth. Brady is smart enough to know, take less money, we can get more players in here, we can make more deeper runs in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. He sees the bigger picture.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's going on with the Giants right now is that Eli's making, 1/3 of the salary.
Right.
The cap.
And I understand about players getting paid. I'm not mad about that.
Right.
And especially if you were willing to put your body on the line in a game
Sure.
like football, get as much guaranteed money as you can. And note I said guaranteed because contracts are very disposable. Let's be honest.
And the NFL, and that's the other thing where the NFL is very business-oriented because you get cut, you get cut.
Yeah, there's no gray area there. It's done.
There's no your contract like in the NBA is fully paid up until the end of its term.
And I know that the NFL got very smart about their rookie deals because as we talk about Bradford and I know Matthew Stafford got the $50 million guaranteed, not even taking a snap in the league.
Right.
And that's their signing bonus. And I know the NFL finally cracked down on that because it made sense.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a situation for Prescott. Sure, you came in at a right time in your first season that you took over as starter.
Right.
Mid-season you took over. You lit it up. Congratulations. Last season, was it consistent like that?
No.
They
were. I mean, I can specifically remember that Carolina game when he had all the chances in the world to drive them in for a touchdown.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
you couldn't punch it in.
Fell short.
So my question then becomes, where are you getting the $40 million idea from?
Man, I don't know. The only thing I can think of is he's kind of looking at it's his own, like Coach said, it's his own evaluation of his ability and his skill level in his head. And maybe some outside friends telling him how great he is and how awesome he is and he's the best quarterback in the league. A combination of that and then just kind of looking around at kind of like how you saw it in baseball in the offseason where Bryce Harper got his massive contract and then a week later Mike Trout blew it out of the water because, hey, there's my benchmark I need to hit. Maybe that's what it is, but in terms with the NFL.
I mean, it's negotiating. He's overvaluing and overselling himself to eventually get something more like probably what he really wants, which is 35.
Yeah, he'll probably wind up with 35, but this will also lead into another issue the Cowboys are having. Mm-hmm. Because if you dump all that money into Prescott, then what do you have for your other holdout right now?
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say, he forgets what's behind him
when
he lines up.
Who, in my opinion, is more valuable to that team at this stage in time, and that is Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, I will say this. If Ezekiel Elliott is not on that team, Dak Prescott is not nearly look as good as he does.
Exactly.
I say, so really what helped him that rookie year was Zeke and Jason Witten.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Those 1 and 1A were the reasons why he was able to be successful as a rookie because no better best friend than having a great tight end and a great running back as a rookie quarterback.
It's always a good thing when your running back averages 5.1 yards a carry.
And your tight end can receive about 10 catches a game.
Yeah, and Witten coming back to the team at this stage, I don't think is even a factor right now.
No, not at all.
But for Elliott to sit out, and he is in the midst of a contract holdout because he wants to restructure his deal.
And a lot of issues off the field, too.
Right. I mean, back on April 17th of this year, the Cowboys picked up the 5th-year option on Ezekiel Elliott's current contract, which is a rookie contract, 4 years, $24.9 million, and he's looking for a contract. But it's like you said, Ken, if you sink, let's just use, because this is the, Coach mentioned it, if the Dallas Cowboys ended up sinking a third of the salary cap into Dak Prescott, what does that leave for Zeke? Not much.
And that's the problem they have, and they can't do it because Prescott is a good quarterback. He's good. I mean, he's not Daniel Jones good, coach, but he's good.
Not many
Few
are.
things are.
Not many are.
But in all seriousness, though, that team runs and lives and dies by Ezekiel Elliott, and because he has arguably the best offensive line.
Right. I was just going to say that offensive line is very good.
Right. If you put that offensive line in Green Bay, let's say hypothetically, and give Aaron Rodgers that much protection,
if you give that offensive line to the Giants when they were still, rolling, before the offensive line disintegrated, you might be talking about a couple more Super Bowls in New York.
Exactly. They have the perfect line in place.
Yeah.
And they were smart about building that up. And that's half the reason Ezekiel Elliott is successful.
That's the other, exactly. And that's the other thing that needs to be sacrificed because their secondary is atrocious.
Oh, yeah, their defense is awful.
And they got a good front seven.
Front seven's
okay, but that back half, their safeties and corners are awful.
Yeah,
can get scorched.
You get the ball 25 yards downfield, you got them burnt.
But who and why is that? Because they have so much invested in the front seven offensively and defensively that when you pay these two, now where do you cut from? And you got to take away from the front sevens.
And that's the situation that Dallas has to look at. Because if I am Jerry Jones, there is no way I am paying Prescott $40 million. $30 million is even a stretch.
There's
for me.
no way I'm paying him $30.
So here's the wild thing. Looking at Spotrac.com, which I've said it before. I highly recommend them if you're ever curious about any sports contracts. The top paid NFL quarterback right now, according to average salary, is Russell Wilson, who averages $35 million a year. And that is a 4-year, $140 million deal. So,
and you take him out of there.
Yeah.
And Seattle's toast.
Oh, God. Yeah.
That's the other difference, too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You take Russell Wilson out of Seattle, and they're done.
Yeah, so
you take Prescott out of Dallas, but still have Zeke there. They're still a 8-8, maybe 10-6 team.
Right, so you take Dak to get $40 million a year. It's got to be north of 4 years, $140 a year, and then you flip to the running back side. Todd Gurley is currently the highest paid running back in the NFL with a 4-year, $57.5 million contract and an average salary of $14.375 million a year.
Isn't that crazy?
So I realize I'm no mathematician, but I don't see how you can make both players happy with the numbers that they would be using as benchmarks.
The answer is you can't.
You can't, and you have to make a choice. But there is also a factor that came up last season that I fear is going to haunt NFL teams this year. And I'm looking at exactly Ezekiel Elliott's situation and out west with the formerly known as San Diego, but it's the LA Chargers and Melvin Gordon. Because Gordon is also trying to get his contract redone. He's on the last year, I believe, of his rookie deal.
Yeah.
They have both seen what happens with Le'Veon Bell's deal in Pittsburgh, that he threatened, and he did sit out the entire year.
Lost some money,
and even in the long term, made less money signing with the Jets than he would have done staying in Pittsburgh.
Right, signed a 4-year, $52.5 million deal.
Right. So both of those players have seen that Le'Veon did get paid. Was it the amount that he was necessarily looking for? No, but they could both sit out the entire year if they so choose and really put that pressure on the organization.
Right.
Which is just, it's crazy that it's gotten to this point.
It is. It's just absolutely mind-blowing that it's gotten to this stage where you have players literally willing to sit out an entire year.
Yeah.
And the investment the team has put into you, they're not getting anything back for.
Right.
And in Pittsburgh's case, though, it worked in their favor because James Conner had an amazing season.
Let's go!
Exactly. I think the whole drama between Bell and AB was the best thing to happen to Juju Schuster-Smith and James Conner, because when they have to renegotiate, the Steelers, I think, might be willing to do some work.
And my fantasy team, Ken.
That's
Don't forget that, because James Conner was huge.
Oh, I remember that Super Bowl, my friend.
That's the thing, though, is Pittsburgh got very lucky with drafting James Conner.
Right.
Because if they don't draft James Conner, they might not have had the kind of year they had.
Well, here's the other thing. San Diego. Whoops.
They're
LA.
always San
Yeah, I
Diego.
just want to roll it right off the tongue.
They're
San
always
Diego.
San Diego.
Dodgers.
LA has they have a good backup running back too.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with the Chargers. That if Melvin Gordon sits out, that's why they're like, go ahead.
Yeah, LA.
No rush.
LA has
No
been very
rush.
public. Like, you want to sit out, sit out.
But Dallas, on the other hand,
Dallas can't afford to.
they can't.
No.
They cannot, because without Zeke, They have zero running game.
I believe they re-signed Alfred Morris.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no,
that's
that's
what
what
I'm in the seat.
But that's what I'm saying.
Right.
They cannot afford to do that because if they decide to give all the money to Prescott, which, in my opinion, insane, they have to find a way to pay Elliott and Prescott reasonably if they're going to restructure. Now, Jerry Jones has always been one that he is very player-friendly about getting players their money. T.O. is a prime example when he signed
Right.
T.O.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was very adamant, and I know this was a press conference. He was like, is the money right? Is the money right? He made sure before there was any kind of holdout after. So with Elliott, I think he's going to do the same thing.
Right.
Here's the catch-22, though, with the Le'Veon Bell situation, because what we also found out during that, and what everybody's known for a long time is, in the NFL, running backs are disposable.
Yeah.
They are
Yeah.
just as good. I mean, they're
Here
just
today,
as good
gone
as long as
tomorrow.
they can run. Exactly. So, I mean, in a situation where, I mean, as a Giants fan, you know, you're looking at Saquon Barkley as the second coming of Barry Sanders.
Right.
You know, what do they do as far as evaluation for that position for him? Because right now, he is the offense.
Yeah.
So, in Melvin Gordon's case, obviously they have a guy behind him who could play and arguably play at the same level that as Melvin was at whatever deal. So it's like it's such an interesting dynamic because here we are talking about the importance that Zeke has for his team. Todd Gurley, you take him out of the Rams, are they as good as they were last year? Arguably, I'd say no.
Debatable.
Yeah.
You know, and you move Saquon out of New York, you know, are they going to be as good? And I know his contract's not up. I'm just saying, move Le'Veon Bell out of Pittsburgh, though, and they were okay because of James Conner. So it's like, what level of importance does the running back really have? And I think really it's just a case-by-case instance because not every team has a Zeke, a Le'Veon, a Melvin Gordon. But at the same time, they have running backs who are arguably okay enough to handle the load. It's just by committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those situations that going into the season, Dallas has got more pressure on them than I think the Chargers do.
Yeah.
The Chargers could sit Melvin Gordon if they want to. They still have Phillip Rivers. They still have a very high-octane offense.
Yeah,
to put
absolutely.
it mildly. So that being said, Case, for Dallas, the pressure is on them. And who do you appease more, Prescott or Elliott? And in this situation, they have a lot of holes they need to address on that team. So if you're going to throw all your money in on one player or two in this situation, this is just a detrimental thing to do. But they have seen that with Le'Veon Bell, it could work out in their favor to sit out.
Yeah.
But will the grass be greener on another team?
And yeah, that's the other thing. Is Le'Veon any better off than he was in Pittsburgh now that he's with the Jets?
No, in fact, I think he's in a worse situation.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this as a Bills fan. I'm saying you are still dealing with let's face it, a still rookie quarterback in Darnold.
Yeah.
Right.
You have a less talented offensive line.
A less talented wide receiver corps
So
to help get you open.
The sophomore slump is a thing.
Yeah. So are you going to be able to bounce back and have your huge numbers that you did? I still think he's going to produce. And in fact, I think he's going to have a nice chip on his shoulder because he's going to want to shut up a lot of people.
Well, and what they're paying, they're going to get him 20 to 40. I mean,
yeah.
30 to 40 touches a game.
He will get the workhorse load
Yeah.
of any player on that team. But going in with that being said, for Elliott and Gordon, okay, there's pluses and minuses for this. Are you going to get paid? Sure. Is it going to be the amount that you're expecting? Probably not. But you have to come back to what is going to make you successful. The team is built for Elliott more than Prescott.
Sure, absolutely.
So Elliott would be foolish to try leaving and pressing he wants to trade or sit out the year because Dallas, albeit they would be hurt at the running back position. Their running back core is not great, and unless they make a blockbuster move for somebody.
And it's not that Alfred Morris isn't a good running back. He's just too injury prone.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Mean, it's a problem.
He's not durable enough.
Yeah.
And it is facts.
Right.
So that being said, Dallas has to make a call, and they have to make the toughest call this side of Oakland to deal with drama on their team.
Right.
Yeah, it's just, I just go back to, it's just such a weird, the NFL is such a fickle thing because here we are talking about the importance of quarterbacks and versus the importance of running backs. And yeah, quarterbacks are huge and it's a passing league, but like at the same time, the teams that were successful all ran the ball. So you have to have a running back.
You have to have somewhat of a running game.
Yeah,
I think
you have to.
I think even the Patriots, who throw more than anything, they do more check down passes though. Than
Exactly,
anybody.
and it's the running backs that are the reason why they're able to get open.
They
you know?
they also haven't had a steady running back since Lawrence Maroney back in the day.
I was even going to say Corey Dillon.
Corey Dillon too.
But again, though, but the problem is that they are so efficient at getting the ball out early that it sets up the long passes. So it's that, back to the original West Coast offense days where it was get the ball, then throw something deep. That these other teams, though, don't have that efficiency because they just don't have the quarterback that Tom Brady is with the ability to get and the route running that the Patriots have. Because it's not just all Tom Brady. Those guys run routes better than probably anybody in the NFL.
Well, the Patriots way works.
Right, exactly.
I mean, that's all you can really say about that.
But you'll see that in Cleveland this year with those guys out there. They're going to have the ability to run routes that are going to be able to get open, that Baker Mayfield's going to be efficient. That whether or not they had a running game is going to be secondary to the fact that they're going to be able to throw slants at an efficient rate.
And you're not hearing anybody cry about money out in Cleveland.
No.
Not at all.
No.
You're hearing about playing time.
You're hearing about playing time, but that's a different story.
Right.
But if they're taking a look at contracts and how it works, they should take a page out of the Patriots book. As much as I hate to say it, but Brady has given them the blueprint.
The problem is, though, is that young guys don't see it that way because they haven't gotten paid. Because let's face it, Tom Brady had years of getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that you can't forget that. This is later stages of his career, plus a marriage later, that he's starting to understand and realize that his income is not necessarily the most important thing.
It's an interesting slope to walk, and that's where Dallas is really going to have to pull the trigger.
And we're really not going to have to wait long to see if anything changes because the current collective bargaining agreement is set to expire after the 2020 season.
So get ready, because as they say in Dallas, get your popcorn ready.
Just please, no strike, NFL. Just whatever you do, don't do that.
No, they have to think short term first, especially if you're in Dallas. Who do you take, Prescott or Elliott? And is this going to be what sinks your season? The money question is going to be up in the air, and we definitely want to interact with you about that. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What's your thoughts about the NFL holdouts? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
2, 3, 4. Hey, this is Johnny Moose from Excite Wrestling, and you're listening to the ODPH. I didn't mess it up. I thought I would. Right now, back to the guys.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH, and we have to talk some UFC. UFC 241 is taking place this weekend.
Yep.
Huge stacked fight card. They have a big shadow to get out of because last week's fight night, Valentina Shevchenko defeated Liz Carmouche. Mike Perry had the nastiest nose break I've ever seen in that fight, too.
Looking at the photo, I couldn't tell it was broken.
Yeah, that fight night, I'm sorry, Mike Perry was in a battle, and if you've not seen the picture of that.
Yeah, was there something wrong with that?
Oh, my God, the nose.
A little bad.
Out of control. And in my opinion, he should have won that fight, too, by the way. I know it was split decision, but I'm going to argue that. But Shevchenko looked amazing in her fight against Carmouche. Nothing against that. But we have the big fight card this weekend with UFC 241. Pad, let's preview a little bit of it, shall we?
Let's say, we got the horses coming out for this fight. Of note, a couple of fights to take a look at here that are kind of jumping out to us. In the middleweight division, you've got Yoel Romero versus Paulo Costa. So that should be an interesting one to look at. But the two we're going to look at, the big ones we're going to look at the welterweight division, your co-main event, Anthony Showtime
Showtime
versus one Nate Stockton Diaz.
Nate has returned to the UFC.
War Stockton.
This is going to be a fun fight.
This is when you legitimately, like we say often, don't blink, you don't want to miss the thing. Not for any knockouts, but just for the antics that are going to go on in the octagon.
There is years of bad blood between Pettis and Diaz. So this is not going to be a friendly fight by any means.
No.
Nate, we haven't seen lately.
No.
He has been gone since, I believe the last time was the Conor McGregor fight.
He's been
I'll
talking.
look it up.
He's been talking.
He's been talking a lot. Like, he's been saying socially active, and I know that he has been kind of lurking in the shadows, waiting to come back at the right time.
His last fight was, as you mentioned, against Conor McGregor back at UFC 202 on August 20th of 2016.
Right, so he has definitely not been in the cage, but he has been staying active. The one thing you never doubt is the Diaz brothers are ready to fight at a given moment.
Anywhere.
Nick or Nate, whoever decides to step up for a card, will literally fight.
Literally ready for a fight.
Doesn't even have to be in an octagon.
No, it does not. And Nate has really risen his stock ever since the Conor McGregor saga. I know they really want a trilogy fight between those two. I personally don't want to see one.
No.
I just don't have any interest in it.
To me, they're like moments in time where, like, it was a fun time with the UFC, and I'm not saying that now isn't a fun time in UFC, but it's one of those things like, oh, it was fun back then, but now I don't really want to see it again.
No, this one definitely, like, I don't know, Conor fighting at 170 just didn't do anything. He gassed out in the second round. I mean, that's how he lost, and he did win the second one. I thought it was a good fight, but I know a lot of people having, like, their, all-time fights,
right?
The top of it. I'm just like, not for me. I'm sorry, I just can't get into it. And then on the flip side, you have Pettis, who has been fighting at featherweight. He's been the former lightweight champion, and now is stepping up at the welterweight division and going off his last couple fights, Pat.
Yeah, his last fight was against Stephen Thompson back in March, where he knocked out Stephen Thompson. Before that, he lost to Tony Ferguson in a corner stoppage back at UFC 229 in 2018. And before that, he defeated Michael Chiesa with a triangle armbar back at UFC 226 in July of 2018.
Pettis will scrap. Pettis is arguably in my top 3 of all-time favorite fighters with Michael Bisping and Carlos Condit. I make no joke about it. Pettis will step up at any weight class. He will throw.
Yeah.
The Ferguson fight, he was even looking good until I believe he broke his hands or he got busted up. He got really messed up in that one. I honestly forget at this time I'm recording. Either way, he looked great against Stephen Thompson, which is no easy task.
No.
Jumping up in 170 and winning how he did. Now we finally have the strike fest that we have been waiting for years. My only wish is nobody gets hurt between now and then or bails out of the fight.
Yes.
So, Coach, you have any pick in this fight?
I'm going to lean Pettis just because I'm not a Diaz fan.
Okay.
Fair enough.
That's the only reason.
All right. Fair.
I mean, it's literally. I mean, when you talk about fist flying, anybody can catch anybody, and you know that these guys are going to slug out. So it's just one who's going to land the shot first,
right?
And I'm just hoping that it's Pettis.
Yeah,
Pad.
I'm going to go with Anthony Pettis, and this isn't a slight against Diaz. I like Diaz; he's a funny guy. I enjoy the trash talking and the antics that come with Nate Diaz promoting a fight, but. Octagon rust is a very real thing. You can and it's like I've said before, and I'll say it again. You can train and spar until it's from sun up till sundown. Every day of the week for 365 days a year. That doesn't come anywhere close to an actual fight. And it, like I said, it's been 3 years. It'll be 3 days shy of being 3 years to the day of his last fight in the UFC. And in that time, Showtime has been active. He's been fighting, and he, no time off, no breaks, everything going on. So, unless Nate does something wild and just catches Showtime, I don't see Showtime losing.
No, this fight's going to be at 170, correct?
Yeah.
Diaz, a lot of talk, a lot of questions of where he's going to be after this fight. The one thing is, even with Octagon rust, he will still scrap because that whole camp that he trains with is ready to drop at a given moment. Pettis coming off some good wins against Chiesa and Thompson. I mean, obviously the Ferguson fight did not go his way, but nothing to sneeze at by any means because Tony Ferguson, you can argue, should be in a lightweight title bout at any moment in time, hopefully. That being said, I'm rooting for Pettis. I really am. I just have a feeling if Nate's coming in there with a chip on his shoulder, he's going to give Pettis a very difficult time with that Stockton jab. And I see this one being a decision fight, but both fighters are going to throw it. I'm going to say split decision, and I fear if it goes split decision, War Stockton, Nate Diaz is coming away with it.
Okay.
I am rooting for Pettis, though. So
Showtime.
I want to make that very clear. But I think that both these guys are so elite strikers that this is going to be one of those wild brawls that you never know what a judge is going to pick here.
Right.
And as we've seen recently with Mike Perry in that fight, you never know when it goes to a judge's decision what you're going to get.
And we've been saying it for how many years, both on the show and before we started the show. Don't leave it up to the judges.
No, you can't. You can't. But I fear it's going to go there. I really do, because I think both these guys fight at such an elite level. Like I said, rooting for Pettis, but picking Diaz if it goes to split.
And then moving to our main event, the one you're paying your money to see. In the heavyweight division, you got Daniel Cormier, the heavyweight champion, defending against former UFC heavyweight champion Stipe Miocic.
Coach, you have any feelings on this?
I don't like Cormier. So, period. I mean, at the end of the day, John Jones, I'm a John Jones camp guy. Not a 607 homer guy, just a John Jones supporter, all right? So, at the end of the day, I'm going to go Mirotic, but obviously DC can easily win this fight.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
The talent that he has is, and especially when he fights heavyweight, is of an elite level that I want to give him the edge, but same with the Pettis Diaz thing, I'm going to go with the guy who I actually want to cheer for.
Yeah,
Pat?
this is real tough because you look at these guys' recent records and it's hard to pick because you look at Daniel Cormier's record outside of the no contest against John Jones at UFC 214. He defeated Anthony Johnson. He defeated Alexander Gustafsson. He defeated Anderson Silva. Anthony Johnson again. He defeated Volkan Ozdemir. He defeated Stipe Miocic and Derek Lewis. You flip to the other side and you've got Stipe Miocic, who lost his last match against Daniel Cormier when he lost the belt at UFC 226 back in 2018. Before that, he defeated Francis Ngannou, Junior Dos Santos, Alistair Overeem, Fabricio Verdum, Andrei Arlovsky, and Mark Hunt. This is yeah. You got a couple kids. Pick your favorite kid.
This is a very difficult fight to do, but who are you picking?
You know what? I'm going to say Daniel Cormier just because, I would like to see Miocic win, and if Miocic can, I think if he can keep it off the ground, Miocic has got a real good shot of winning, but just Cormier's pedigree in wrestling is just nigh unbeatable.
In the first fight, Miocic was winning until he got into a dirty boxing match with Cormier, and Cormier hit him with an uppercut that he never recovered from. In this rematch, this is going to be a legacy fight for a couple different reasons.
Sure.
Daniel Cormier is seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. He's made no bones about it. He's only got a couple more fights left.
I was saying he recently, I believe it was on the Ariel Helwani podcast, said that he really doesn't need another John Jones fight because before he needed the John Jones fights because I need the money, I need this, I need that. But now he's got the detail show with ESPN Plus, and he does commentary with ESPN for commentary. There's his rumored involvement potentially going over to WWE and doing commentary with WWE. This, like you said, it's very much a legacy fight because this very well could be the last fight we see him in.
Very, very good point, Pat. And for me, I see this as Miocic has been screaming for an immediate rematch. And when we talk about fighters that lose belts, a lot of them scream for immediate rematches, and some get them that you could argue maybe don't deserve them right away.
Sure.
Miocic has the longest defense streak at UFC heavyweight for being champion. So how he has not gotten an immediate rematch is kind of a little puzzling to me.
Right.
But I digress.
I'll say he beat the stigma of heavyweights in the UFC don't defend their belts more than X amount of times before getting knocked out.
Yeah. And like I said, he was winning that fight, in my opinion. He just got caught up in a clinch and ate a dirty uppercut.
Yeah.
And I mean dirty not in a cheating method, it's just
Right.
this dirty boxing.
Right.
That's all that was going on there. So this fight, I think Miocic is going to upset everything.
Okay.
I am going with Miocic.
If that happens, I won't be upset about it by any means.
I'm not going to be upset about it. Because the one thing I fear with Cormier winning is nothing against Cormier.
Right.
Cormier has carved out his own legacy.
Yeah.
Right.
But the immediate thing that's going to happen after this fight is going to be, so you're going to fight John Jones?
Yeah.
You going to fight John Jones?
Yeah, but I think winner. I think him losing more so lends that fight to John Jones.
Yeah.
Than him winning.
The other thing, too, though, is as long as one or both fighters are still active in the UFC and still fighting, that question will never stop hounding the two of them.
But at this stage, it should stop. I mean, Jones...
Oh, I agree with you.
Yeah, I know.
I agree.
No, but I'm saying, Jones has won both fights. Is there really a necessary need for a trilogy fight?
No.
Not at all.
No.
I mean, not in the... I would think... in more of the hardcore fan, you and Pat are. I know I'm a little more of the outskirts. I don't personally want a third fight, but that the lesser fans that just want the name fights, they're clamoring for this.
When they made a rematch against Alexander Gustafsson and John Jones, that one to me made sense. And
That made a lot of sense.
We both agreed on this. That was the first person to really give John a test. And for a while, it looked like Alexander Gustafsson was going to win that fight until, he didn't. In both instances against John Jones, Daniel Cormier was losing that fight.
Yeah, there's no point in it doing a rematch at light heavyweight. Now, if Jones wants to vacate and move up to heavyweight, okay, but Cormier needs to be the champion for that.
Yeah.
And I think Miocic, though, if he wins, I think that Francis Ngannou has to be a name on the radar, too, and they have to have a rematch.
Yeah.
Because Ngannou has looked impressive since the whole Derek Lewis, we don't need to talk about that fight.
Yeah.
So, like I say, for Miocic, though, I think he's got more to prove because everybody is looking at Cormier, and rightfully so. First champ in a long time. He's really kind of established that. For Cormier, like I said, this is a legacy fight. If he can defeat Miocic again, there really isn't anything left there for him to do at heavyweight, and he can ride off in the sunset and do whatever he wants.
You bring up the Francis Ngannou thing, and I didn't realize this, and I flat out forgot about it. Holy crap, his last 3 fights. Knocked out Junior Dos Santos, knocked out Cain Velasquez, and knocked out Curtis Blades all in the first round.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
He came back from that embarrassing Derek Lewis fight.
Yeah.
Which I don't ever recommend anybody watching. I'm going to tell you, skip it. That's how bad it was, in my opinion. But Ngannou's been on a tear, and where he goes from here, like he's got to be waiting in the wings to see what happens. I don't know if DC wants that fight. Not saying that he would not fight him, I don't want to fight him.
Right.
But I think after this, it's like, what else is there?
I think the next thing on his plate is whatever can draw the most money.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the closing of the door.
Yeah.
Basic fight.
Because Brock Lesnar ain't walking in that door. So if he doesn't want to go anymore, he's got every right to leave in the sunset. And I don't struggle with that. His legacy is carved. He's one of the greatest heavyweights of all time in MMA. And even his run at light heavyweight is astonishing too.
And I know Brock signed that big deal, that exclusive deal with WWE, but I mean, him losing the title again makes me kind of curious.
It does, but he's out of the USADA pool.
Right.
So he'd have to get back in.
He'd have to get back in, which he's done before.
Right.
This isn't something that he has not done before.
Right, but to get that fight going, I don't know if Cormier is going to want to wait that long.
No, because
that's where I'm going with it.
How long do you have to wait in USADA?
It'd be at least a year, I think.
So it's something like that. So that being said, I mean, there's only a couple big fights that maybe would appeal to Cormier if he wins. But like I said, I'm taking Miocic in this.
Yeah.
And then I think you're going to have to do Miocic and Ngannou too.
Oh, yeah.
I think that fight has to happen again.
I'm all for that.
So we'll have to wait and see what happens Saturday because it's going to be going live on pay-per-view wherever you watch the UFC. UFC 241. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What is your predictions for the fight? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. The ODPH is proud sponsors of RoberCon 2019, happening September 28th and 29th. Don't miss out on Binghamton, New York's biggest sci-fi, fantasy, and gaming convention of the year. For badge details and more info, check out robercon.org. Coming back for the final segment in this edition of the ODPH Pad. You got that local minute?
Yeah, local minute. Of course, we're talking Binghamton Rumble Ponies news. Looking at their games from last week, they lost their series against Harrisburg with losing 2 games and winning 1. Lost their series over the weekend against the Hartford Yard Goats, losing 2 games and winning 1. Looking ahead to their games this week, they've got a doubleheader against the New Hampshire Fisher Cats on this coming Tuesday. Game times on bingrp.com. They've also got 2 more games against the New Hampshire Fisher Cats following that, and then this weekend they've got a 3-game series against the Hartford Yard Goats. Like I said, more information bingrp.com.
I just want to say they hosted a nice little event for the community at the stadium by having a movie night.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
They showed how to Train Your Dragon 3.
Okay.
It was a really nice evening. They let us, we got on the field, got to watch it on the nice screen that they just put in this year. Nice little event. Kudos to you guys for doing that for the community. Big ups.
I was saying, I'm looking at the schedule here. It looks like on their game on Saturday against Hartford, they're having a Woodstock 50th tribute night. Now, I realize the Woodstock 50th, whatever you want to call that, isn't happening this year. So, hey, next best thing.
They're doing a lot of events down at the stadium, so kudos to everybody at the Binghamton Rumble Ponies organization. They're doing some big things. Excite Wrestling is coming down there September 1st, so more information on that event, excitewrestling.com. More information on the Binghamton Rumble Ponies, bingrp.com. And a quick shout-out, because this is breaking as we're recording, the Binghamton Bulldogs are announcing they're having their kickoff party for the season happening Friday, August 23rd at Peterson's Tavern locally in the 607, 7 p.m. More information about that, check the Binghamton Bulldogs Facebook page. They got the whole thing up right now, so definitely check it out. And shout out to everybody down at Binghamton Bulldogs because it's going to be Bulldog season very, very quickly. So as we're rounding the bases, we were going to address the Rich Paul rule and what was going on there. But as we were recording, it was just amended.
Right.
Which is the right move to do.
And now leaves us with nothing to talk about.
It leaves us with nothing to do, but we had so much feedback about the wrestling recap show we did last week. We figured we're going to kind of segue that in for our rounding the bases, shall we?
Sure.
So NXT TakeOver was Saturday.
Yeah.
Thoughts around the panel from that, starting with the coach?
Great show. I mean, just like they always do. They put on great matches, hell of a night. Kudos to those guys. Listen, whatever happens with Gargano in the future, that man really carried the NXT banner in a way that probably hasn't been done in a long time because, he wasn't necessarily the champion for much of this time in NXT. So even for him to carry the banner without being the champion just goes to show the character that he has.
Yeah.
And big ups to I really hope that they don't drop the ball with him moving up. And if he goes to 205, I'm perfectly okay with that too.
Yeah. No, it was a great card, like you said. Favorite match for me probably has to either be the triple threat for the North American title between Roderick Strong, Velveteen Dream, and Pete Dunne, because holy crap, that was hard hitting. Or you're the main event for the NXT Championship and the 3 stages of hell match between Gargano and Cole. Just because that to me was just perfect storytelling where it's you learn about it in grade school and English class, the beginning, middle, and end of a story. And that just to me felt like, a great way to tell a story inside a wrestling match.
Pat and I were actually down at Dragon Master Games doing the 3 Fat Nerds watch party. So shout out to everybody there. Definitely check them out on our webpage, #607podcast. You can find the links to their podcast. It's definitely worth checking out. They do a wrestling show each week. We were all down there watching. It was a great night. And, what else can you say about Gargano and Adam Cole?
Ow.
Amazing match. Gargano is getting the call up, whether he stays on Raw or he goes to 205 Live. He really set the bar high for what NXT is. If you want to talk about somebody that is, dare I say, Mr. NXT, he came in there and really came out of nowhere, and just look at the body of work he's done. What else can you say? The benchmark has been set, and whether they're going to TV or not, which is the heavy rumor now, have to wait and see.
Yeah, whatever happens with Fox is going to be crazy if they put that up on Wednesday nights.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to watch moving forward, so stay tuned for that. And then SummerSlam was the next night.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that, Coach?
It was what it was. That's exactly what we talked about on the show. It was going to be another night after NXT with a great, tremendous takeover that was going to lead into a not-so-stellar card and product put on by the main roster. And, Seth and Brock put on a great match, and there was moments throughout that were great. But, Bill Goldberg is Bill Goldberg, and that Dolph match was what it was.
Listen, Dolph Ziggler lasted longer against Bill Goldberg than Brock Lesnar did. Let that sink in.
Yeah, I don't want to talk lowlights because it's easy, again, like I said last time, to smash on, the main roster. But, The Fiend is here.
Oh, my God.
And it was nuts. I can't even put into words the watching the entrance, the match, the whole nine, what that experience was like. I couldn't even imagine what that was like for the live crowd.
It just goes to show that if you go back and watch the clip of Bray coming out as the Fiend for the first time, and they cut to the shot of Finn Balor and his reaction. His reaction was the epitome of the meme. It was at that moment he knew he screwed up. And also the other good one, if you can find it, I think Johnny Gargano retweeted it. Johnny Gargano was actually in the watch party on WWE's YouTube page or wherever it was they were streaming it during that match, and they specifically hard cut to his face during that moment, and he's just absolutely like, oh my God, what is this?
I actually watched a little bit of the watch party because I wanted to see Riddle and the Bill Goldberg.
Yeah.
I wanted to see his take on that. And if you can find it on YouTube, go out of your way. He has a very funny story that is on social media now. You can go out and find it, but it was very funny nonetheless.
I was hoping after the third spear that Dolph took, and he sold like no man.
And I told you he was going to.
I agreed with you. He definitely stole the show on that one. I was hoping Riddle walked out.
Yeah.
We were just going to hear, bro.
He did say that.
No, he threw his phone, which is even better, you know?
I was waiting on that. The other stellar moments of the show was, AJ Styles and Ricochet was probably the best wrestling match of the night, and the ending of that. And then the tease about bringing Finn Balor to the club is, #when.
Yeah. I mean, it was an okay card. I mean, my biggest takeaway and my biggest thing I enjoyed about the card was I don't know who was in charge of the pacing of that card, but kudos to you. The pacing of this card was superb. It didn't feel like WrestleMania where it was a slog and we're sitting there at 10:30 or whatever, 9:30, 10 o'clock and going, oh my God, we have how many matches left?
No, it wrapped up good.
We were sitting there at like 9 o'clock and going, oh my God, we have, like 3 matches left?
Yeah, I was texting some friends and I was watching the PLL, the Premier Lacrosse League, had their premier game on that night with Paul Rabel, so I was kind of bouncing back and forth watching that, and they texted me and were like, it's only 8:30 and we still have 5 matches left, and I was like, this game's going to be wrapped up by 9:30. I made the right choice here.
Right.
But, I mean, the show ended up ending at a decent time versus WrestleMania, so obviously the card and matches that had changed and get moved off of the main show onto Raw, it's unfortunate for those wrestlers, but for us fans, I'll take it.
It worked. It worked out in the end. I mean, they got their time on SmackDown and Raw respectively this week, so it's not like they were completely banished.
Right, but it's you want to be on the card.
Oh, every
wrestler
wants to be on the card. No, it doesn't matter what. But like I said, the takeaways from this, I mean, AJ and Ricochet was awesome. The tease for Finn Balor, Bray Wyatt was the moment of the night and lived up to expectation.
Just creepy
in every single way. And Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar actually had a really good match, and I'm not mad at the ending. I don't know what's going to happen now with Seth, but. Let's see where it goes.
Seth beat Brock straight up. There was no shenanigans involved.
Yeah. So, I mean, overall, great weekend of wrestling. Yeah. So we'll have to see what happens moving forward. The music you heard on today's podcast is Fair City Fire. You can check them out on OchoDuroParlayHour.com under the music section. You can find all the music you hear on the show. So definitely head over there, check it out, interact with us on social media, #ODPH. Once again, another shout out to One Movie Punch for sharing the promos this week. Definitely check them out, onemoviepunch.com, because that's all we got for this week. So for Coach Duffy,
Daniel Jones,
Padawan J.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast. We'll see you next time.